All right, what is going on, guys? Back with another podcast. Today's guest is my buddy Brad Vasko. He's out in Kansas City, and he owns Vasko Speed and Performance. He builds some no-prep cars and some very well-known cars you've had your hands on. GM tech for a long time, so we're going to ask you some stuff about the new C8 because I'm sure you're glad that you're not having to work on that as they come out. And really excited to dive into some of the no-prep stuff here and some of the builds that he's been a part of. So where do we even start? The 10K challenge, the Corvettes, or hater bars?
Hater bars.
Is that what they call them? The hater? The butthurt bars.
Yeah, they have a lot of names. Yeah, butthurt bars, one of them, and that's a pretty good name. Yeah, it definitely starts a conversation whenever they come up. So yeah.
Yeah. So the butthurt bars, the gigantic 10-foot bar that they put off the back of the no prep cars to get the weight to transfer all the way back. I fully don't understand all of the physics. I understand it, but I couldn't explain the physics behind it.
Yeah, so Joey, the beater bomb, actually came to me with this idea. My first initial thought was, no, I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it. And he's like, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to take it to somebody who will. And I'm like, well, we're not going to do that. So we kind of worked it out and talked about it. And I was like, so run this by me again. You want to do what? And he, if you're not trying to, go faster and think outside the box, where are you at? You know what I mean? So you got to give credit where credit is due. Exactly, And he knew where he was at, and he knew that, hey, I need to do something to change some stuff, and so he came up with this wild idea. And I mean, I'm sure people have actually thought of it and used it before in a certain way, but he actually went into like the mathematics side of stuff.
Yep.
He's really good with math. I suck at math, but he's really good at math. And he figured out, hey, we put the weight this far back. You don't have to put as much weight in the car, and pretty ingenious idea. So
that's interesting because not anything against Joey, but I didn't peg him as like the guy. Like I didn't peg him as like the
brains or the math.
The good at math and like doing the physics of it. I would just imagine like, oh, put weight back here.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah.
I mean, he drives beater bomb. It's like, it's junky looking for a reason on the outside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's kind of the persona he puts out.
Yes.
With the car.
Yeah, exactly.
At least.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally, when he came over and we were coming up with this idea and wanted to work with me on it, and we were kind of going back and forth, and he's talking numbers and stuff, and I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, oh yeah, and he's like going into all these numbers, and I'm like, why, you like math? Like, I hate math. I suck at math. And he's like, I'm
and
I'm
you're
really
the fab
good
guy.
Yeah, I should be good at math, but I'm not.
You just measure a couple times and make sure you're good.
They have a cell phone for a reason. When your teacher was like,
exactly.
oh, you're never gonna have a calculator, and yeah, well, you got one in your pocket.
So he puts what, like 20 pounds back there? More? Maybe that numbers are secret, I guess. Put some weight back there.
To be honest, he kind of come out of the whole secret box a little bit, and he's kind of really like he showed his engine bay the other day, a couple months back, and like I didn't even know he was going to do it. I was blown away. I'm like, oh, come on, you're going to put up a picture of something else, but no, it was actually his engine bay. But yeah,
and you did the turbos on that.
Yeah, well, I've done the turbos on that thing for a while now. So yeah, so Joey actually came to Kansas City and was doing a lot of street racing way back in the day. And when I first met him, it was a Nitrous 5.3 way back in the day. And so we kind of became friends, and I was kind of in the building turbo kits, and he kind of got with me and kind of just became friends and kind of worked our way through that whole deal together, and been doing turbo kits with him, and he's been staying loyal and been having a pretty good relationship.
Turbo 5.3 off the kick. I always knew that like the last few years, I guess, it was big cubic inch. Because, like, you watch that thing go, and you're like, yeah, it's definitely got big cubic inch. Because you always speculate on it. He said JZ. He said all kinds of stuff to Fred.
Yeah, and honestly, like, he came to me when we were doing the cage, and that was when he said, oh, yeah, this is, I was at his house, and he's like, this is what we're putting in it. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And he's like, no, that's where we're going to put it. I'm like, nah, come on. We really need this? And, yeah, he did. So
big block with some gigantic turbos.
Yeah.
Like X275 legal looking turbos.
Yeah, they were 94s on it, but yeah.
So. I imagine once he showed it, I was like, oh, he's probably going to be changing it this winter. Because that's normally how, that's kind of what I thought, I guess. I was like, okay, so he shows it, and then you change it to stay ahead of the pack.
Which is kind of what I thought too, but I feel like he's kind of made it with that car where at the end of the day in no prep, you can make all the horsepower you want.
Yeah.
It's about getting it to the ground, and I feel like there's a number where you're probably not going to be able to put that much power, on a small tire to the ground. So
yeah, and I mean, it's weird to say, but on no prep, you kind of could come to the limit of a Fox chassis.
Right.
People are going for the longer cars. They're doing like weird kind of stuff. I don't know the no prep world that much. I know radial tire racing a lot better.
Yeah.
Not well, but better.
Yeah.
That slick tire racing, the squishy tire racing stuff isn't what I know.
Yeah, it's a whole nother world, and it's tons of different stuff that's way out of the realm.
Chassis are completely different.
Oh yeah.
I was even watching Jared Sketchyvert's car go down the other day, and his car's separating in the front, like all this separation. I'm like, dude, you're not in Nebraska anymore.
Right.
We're on a radial track.
Yeah, there's prep down here.
Yeah, there's glue. They know what glue is. And it's just crazy to see like the amount of separation that his front end gets.
Yeah.
Is like what people dream of their rear ends to get.
Oh yeah.
When they're down here.
My car's the same way. Like I have AFCOs on my car, and the front end comes up, and I need to just have them revalved because they just don't do what it should do. And it's like most of the time when I'm racing it, it's it's not that fast of a car, but it's still fun. So yeah.
Yeah, and then to do that with what looks like an iron block V8 up front that he's pulling the wheels up like that. Because even before he had the weight off the back, like it was still a lot of wheelie up front.
Oh yeah.
For the amount of weight that thing probably has on the nose.
Exactly right.
I imagine it's pretty nose heavy. The turbos are really far forward.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't see it, it's a Fox body with gigantic turbos and a big block. So.
Yeah. Well, and originally when Joey wanted to do the turbos, he wanted them like really far back because he wanted the weight off of the nose, and I was like
pro mod type.
Yeah, and I'm like, they're not. But there's the rule, you can't mess with the firewall. So I'm like, they're not.
It's a Fox body.
They're not going to fit there, And he's like, oh no, we can make them. I'm like, no, I don't think we can make them fit, And they kind of wound up where they're at, and nobody's perfect. You learn things as you go. And one of the things that we dealt with on his is he wanted the turbos to have that kind of angle to them, And we dealt with oil draining issues. So a lot of the videos you'll see it like smoking a lot. It's because the turbo wasn't draining the way it should. And, the turbos that were on it, the company that he had them from was like, oh yeah, you need to, you can't have more than like a 15-degree angle or whatever like that. And it's like, that's not very much when you look at it. So. Yeah. It was partially designed by him and I because that's the way he wanted it. But now he's got oilless turbos, the comp oilless turbos. Yep. So those things are pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, those are interesting. They have like a Zerk fitting on there.
You literally like pump them like 5 times before each race with grease.
So weird, yeah.
I was like, where does the grease go? He says it just goes out the exhaust.
It's just gone. Don't worry about it.
It just disappears.
It's like a bearing on a trailer. Yeah. Because I looked at those for my CTSV at one point, but I was like, well, you still have to run coolant.
Right.
Well, at least you did when they first came out. I think they're coming out with oil and coolantless ones.
His are both. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I was like, well, if you still have to run coolant, you're kind of, what's the point? You're still running lines.
Right.
Like it's the same amount of plumbing.
Right. Yeah.
It's just the drainage.
But I think
also
part of it is that you can mount them in weird different ways, and you don't have to worry about them to drain back.
Well, that's why the Corvettes and like not Corvettes, the CTSVs were good with them because they put them by the transmission.
Right.
Where it's hard to get the oil back into the pan because, they're at under the pan, basically.
They're just down below
lower than the oil pan. And then scavenge pumps are untrustworthy at that point.
Like, exactly. You're like, well,
another pump pulling more amperage.
Yep.
Especially on a car that doesn't have an alternator. It's like, you really start to get into a tough situation there.
Yeah.
And then you built a car for 10 grand on that challenge.
Yeah.
That was a cool deal.
That was a lot of fun, honestly. It was a 2-week deal, like start to end.
Horsepower Wars, right?
Yeah, it's called Horsepower Wars. Yeah.
I think they only did the 3 seasons of it.
Yeah, they did 3, and COVID kind of screwed up one of them, whatever. So I think it had the potential to really, really be a cool series, but I think after the 3rd one, and partially ours, everything kind of got screwed up with the cars that caught on fire and stuff like that. But
yeah, I think that definitely caught on fire one season and then COVID the next season.
Yeah.
Definitely kind of
Yeah,
kicking the balls a little bit.
Was this thing locked down?
Yeah,
Okay,
locks.
there we go. Yeah, the burning actually, in my opinion, when the cars caught on fire, I think it was from the truck. I don't even really remember what happened. I think the semi-trailer caught on fire. But the burning of them actually was kind of a blessing too, because all the teams got to keep the cars, where in the very beginning they didn't let you keep the cars. Only the winner got to keep the car. And so us being able to keep the Junkyard Dog was a very, very cool thing for us. So
Yeah, because that would be unfortunate to build it and then, because like, what's the TV show going to do with a $10,000
well, and that was my
car?
thing. Like they had the cars from the previous year, and the
What
guy.
are they going to do with it?
Yeah, I'm like, what are you guys gonna do? Why wouldn't you? I get maybe giving the 10K to the winner, but I think all the teams should be able to keep the car and do something, because all that's going to do is promote your business, your show more, and going out there and people racing. Oh, that was a car from that show.
I mean, look at Beer Money. That thing's been racing
Beer Money is-
competitively.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
like Lyle's most winning car. that he's ever had.
It's an amazing car, and those guys were super cool to meet. I mean, the whole experience was cool. Joe Hunt actually came to, me and Joey and all of us and Josh, and we're like, yeah, we want to do this thing. I was like, oh, it'd be cool. I don't think we're going to get on, but it'd be cool. So kind of went through it and started making it through all the stages, and eventually got to the point where it was like, I think 4 teams had been, were going to be able to decide if they were going to go on or go further with the show. And one of them was actually some guys that were on Street Outlaws, Andrade.
Yep.
With the Cuddy. He was actually one. I'm like, oh man, we're going to really have to push hard.
Yeah, because your season was, how many cars? 4 cars?
Yeah, 4 cars. But the thing is like, you would think they would have chose 4 teams, but no, they kept the team from the previous year.
Yeah.
And then the editor got to choose one of them. And then they had a dream team, which was compiled of like a whole bunch. So only one team would actually get chosen by the people to truly go on. So, and I get they'd had the sponsored team, which it was a, show, because they were just, I mean, none of the people knew each other, so they were all trying to work together, and it just didn't work. You kind of have to have people that work together that know what, how each other work.
And a couple cars like really burned down. Really gone.
Yeah. The dream team, their car really, really burnt. It was really bad, and they pretty much had to rebuild the whole thing, which from a competition standpoint, I mean,
was that which car was it that really burned down?
It was the Mustang. It was the New Edge,
the
New Edge Mustang. And then a little bit, like the bumper of the Australian's car got burnt, and then I want to say there was some decent damage to the wagon.
Yeah.
The Granada.
I haven't seen the wagon out.
Well, and that was another thing. So, I mean,
you see Beer Money all the time. I haven't seen your car that you guys built.
The Junkyard Dog.
I haven't seen any of the other cars.
Yeah. So the Junkyard Dog, Joey actually holds on to it. We lost Joe, and after that whole show kind of happened. So Joey was really, really close to Joe. It was his best friend. They went racing all the time. So Joey actually ended up, we felt that it was right for him to keep it, because it was a lot of memories that we all had with that car and Joe.
Yeah.
So Joe.
And it was an F body, right?
It was G body.
Oh, that was a G body.
Yeah, it was a 79 Cutlass.
79 Cutlass.
Yeah. So, but it had we built it with a 4.8, and then it had an 80 millimeter turbo, and so Joey, actually is the caretaker of it, and kind of his idea was to kind of keep it the way it was on the show and not really do anything and see what we could get it to do. Where I think now he's had it a while that we're kind of like, hey, let's see what we can do with it and try and kind of do what they did with Beer Money. I feel like we should get out there and race it some, but he's got his hands full with the Peter bomb, so it's kind of like,
Yeah, are you gonna go race some $10,000 G body?
Yeah.
And win nothing maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Or go out there with a car that has like an 80% chance of winning.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, I'll take this one.
It's hard. Yeah, you gotta maybe do that like a drag and drive with it or something, just to have fun.
Something that, but yeah, I that's one of the conversations that we had is trying to get that car out more, and I feel like do it justice and let the world see what we did in 10 days, because we actually got it done in 8. So like we got it done way before anybody else did.
Yeah, so you guys got to like button it up for real.
Yeah. So it was a pretty cool experience. We had a lot of fun, and obviously got to keep the cars. So that was the biggest thing for us. And
yeah, I mean that's a win-win at that point.
I mean
10 days.
But at the same time, you got
build
to
a
look
car.
at it. You send somebody out there for 2 weeks of their life to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like it's just they should have given it to you. So
Yeah, I think it's crazy to like the producers to even think to keep those cars.
Yeah, and like you said, what are they going to do with it?
Unless it's a liability to let the cars go. But I don't think
know.
so.
I don't know.
It almost feels like it's just a safety hazard to me, giving 10 days and $10,000 to try to go as fast as possible.
Now, I will say this.
It sounds scary in a
way.
way.
It does, but they did supply you with like safety stuff. So like the cage, that wasn't part of the $10,000. There's things that they would give you that weren't part of the $10,000.
Yeah.
So true, and you count labor. I mean, all those guys.
Oh
working,
yeah, I mean if you count labor,
yeah, it's like way over
30 grand right away.
Exactly, But the fact that you can build a car that quick and do it and actually go out there and race is actually a pretty cool deal. So, but
Yeah, that was definitely cool. I would like to see the show come back.
Yeah,
it's tough to find teams realistically.
I think there's something there. I truly do. I think like if you could get the whole sponsorship side of it, I feel is a big deal because you need that. I mean, like Summit was amazing. Like literally, if we needed something that overnighted it to us, I mean, we had a 45-minute drive every day to the spot where we built the car from the house we were staying at, and every morning we would be on the phone with Summit saying, "Hey, we need this, and the next day it was there. It was really, really cool.
Where'd you guys build them at?
Marietta, California.
Oh.
So it's a little bit. It's over there by LA, kind of.
And then they sent them to South Georgia Motorsports Park
Well,
to
so
race.
but I think that was the publicity stunt side of it because I think they were filming. They were doing the live feed. The company that was doing the show was doing the live feed for the Ducks race, and so we were supposed to have had the race in the fall, but since the fire happened, they moved it to the spring. So it was lights out that we ended up going to, I believe. Somewhere in the fall.
Yep.
So or the spring, whichever.
Yeah,
one
for
it was.
lights out or whatever they do in the
So I think they kind of worked out a deal.
one of Ducks races.
Yeah, it was a Ducks race. They worked out a deal. They're like, hey, we want these cars to be at the show for, whatever they worked out, which it was cool. It was there, but it was a lot that it was clear down in Georgia. So, I mean, one side of the country to the other. But,
Yeah, and then I think, was it Mac TV that also had a little S10 that they built on there? Somebody built an S10 with the turbo out on the roof.
I believe that was the next year.
That was
the third year.
Yeah, that was the final season that they've done with it.
Yeah, and like I said, if you could like get somebody to do that and like have like a deal, but you almost have to do it like in that setting. You almost have to have all the teams in the same area. Hey, start working, stop working. Because otherwise, drag racers, we're gonna find a way to cheat. That's just part of it.
I mean, I imagine everybody was cheating in some way, getting parts for cheap.
Yeah.
Like, I had this motor at my shop that was only $200.
And to be honest, for us, I felt like, and I'm not just saying it because I was on the team, I felt like we followed the rules pretty normal. There were a lot of teams that were doing some scandalous stuff that was like, really, you're going to let them get away with this,
Just like out in the open.
Yeah. I mean, and it is part of the game.
I imagine it would happen. Like, I don't think for a second if I was going, I wouldn't use sponsors that I already have. Like, I know that was kind of a big one. Like
that was a big thing that they didn't want to do, and obviously
you get free parts from your sponsors, and
they tried to prevent that as much as possible. But there was one team, the Dream Team, the Comp Cam's Dream Team, the one that sponsored the show. They literally they had an engine from a junkyard that they bought for $200 show up, and it was kind of like when they took it apart, they started seeing some stuff that somebody had gone through it. And done
wow, it has billet rods. That's so weird.
And it wasn't that crazy, but they had done stuff to it, and it's like, well, how they blatantly cheated, and you caught them, and they were like, well, we're gonna fine them this much. And it was
those all brand new bearings in there.
Weird. It was like, come on,
the rings gapped already, huh?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Whereas us, we literally went. So we rented a Suburban, and we went to this guy's house, and we bought a junkyard 4.8. and we put it into the back of this rental Suburban with a forklift and just set it in the back of this thing because we didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah, that was
so
it.
we literally bought it parts from California and did it that way. So it was pretty cool. But
Yeah, that makes it weird being in California too.
It does, yeah.
It's so out of everyone's like range.
Yeah, it was
for the most part.
It was the first time I've ever been out there, and there was some cool stuff that we got to see out there. We got to go by like Iskandarian racing cams, got to see that. There was a street out there that they famously street race on, so we got to go see that and walk by that. That was pretty cool.
And even people with like big social media followings, you can find things easily. Like, you go out there with somebody that has a lot of followers, and it's like, hey, I need a motor for cheap.
Exactly, yeah.
What's out there in this area? And it's like you have a really good chance of somebody that's got some cheap big blocks sitting around.
Oh, yeah. But for the most part, that didn't necessarily happen, I don't think.
It could. That's
though.
some of the things that they would have to work. That's some of the rules that they would have to figure out for.
Right. And see, down here in Florida, it would work. I think you could make it happen. I think you could make it because you have the weather and with the traffic, with the track and everything that's down here. I think you could probably
you could rent a shop in Bradenton, have 4 teams down here, and then easily have the track right there.
For sure.
There's
and when
transmission
we were there,
builders around here and stuff.
When we were there, we actually had 4 lifts, but the next year they made them do it all on the ground, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing
messed up when they take the lifts out.
Yeah, it's like they moved to a different shop where they're all in the same room. And I'm like, I don't know about this doing it on the ground stuff.
That's nice of them.
Yeah. So
producers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like but yeah, it was definitely a cool experience, and we had a lot of fun. And like I said, I'd do it again. I think I would.
It'd be cool to bring all the cars back that are all out there. All 3 season cars.
Yeah, but I don't know if the third season got to keep theirs.
Well, at this point, also beer money's probably got a lot more into it.
Oh yeah. But I mean, we can get the old Junkyard Dog going again. And the guys from Australia, awesome. You've been to Australia. I haven't got to go there yet, but the dudes from Australia are freaking. They're badass. They're cool dudes. Genuine, a load of fun. They'll help you out. You know what I mean? That was a real cool experience. They didn't care. They just even though you're competitors, they were still give you some tips or advice, and of course the way they talk was fun too. So
yeah, they not to stereotype, but they definitely like to party.
Oh yeah,
all the car guys in Australia that I knew.
Yeah,
really like to party and tear it up.
Oh yeah,
and they like to tear up their cars. I saw a lot of that. But in Australia, it's crazy because they didn't get iron blocks.
Oh, really?
No, because they didn't have SUVs.
Oh, wow.
So the only LSs they got were like LS1s or LS3s.
Wow.
So the iron block stuff is a U.S. market thing.
Okay.
So they kind of got cheated a little bit.
Yeah.
It's tough to build LS platforms off of an LS1.
Yeah. That is true.
They
have that. Is it the Barra?
Yeah.
That thing's freaking cool.
It's like a 4.2 liter inline 6.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool to build one of those.
Yeah. If I didn't have an inline 6 car already, I'd probably try to import one. But how many inline 6 cars do I need?
Yeah. It's kind of like, where you get parts for this thing at?
I already got the better version of Toyota. Toyota's top of the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you were to do another $10,000 car, what would you build? Gets tough because $10,000 car, thinking about the budget is kind of fun in itself.
Right.
Like if you were trying to go A to B as fast as possible.
Everything now is so skewed. I mean, you can't get a Fox body. You know what I mean? Back in the day, you could get Fox bodies dirt cheap. Now you can't find a Fox body. And even these things are hard to find. And I love these just as much as you. I mean, we're catfish guys,
Fourth gens are great. But the problem is with a budget fourth gen is they have a shitty rear end.
Yeah.
Like a budget Fox body at least is like something.
Yeah, but you can do an 8.8 in them.
You can, but you have to get that.
Yeah. So.
But they're only like $100.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you would go with that.
I don't know. But the G body was cool. But it also kind of depends on how the situation was, because when we did it, we didn't have a choice. They only had 4 cars, so it was like you choose one of these cars and that's what you get.
Oh, that makes sense.
Which was kind of cool, because then you have a game plan of which one you want. But then with the challenges, if somebody won that car that you were planning on getting, it put a wrench in your whole build. So for me, I'd probably stick with some sort of a Mustang, like maybe the SN95s are. fairly
Yeah,
reasonable to
that's
get.
a cheap one. Unfortunately, the V6s, then you have to get an 8.8.
Yeah.
Because you get the 7.5-inch rear end.
Exactly. But yeah, the 4th gen F bodies are cool, and we're getting to that point where everything in the 80s is cool now. So I mean, OBS trucks are through the roof. IROCs are through the roof. Any of that
Third
stuff.
gens are crazy right now.
It's crazy. So.
And I've never thought a third gen looked that good.
Really?
No, never.
Really?
Never as a third gen
come
guy.
on.
Maybe because I'm late 90s born.
Yeah. Well, that could be part. My wife and I were arguing about that the other day. She's like, "There's no good-looking cars that came out of the 80s." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, the Grand National.
That's the only one I was
IROC,
thinking.
The Fox body. I mean, the
Japanese
F40,
cars.
The Ferrari F40 came out of the 80s. The Lamborghini Countach.
Japanese cars, there was great ones.
That too. Yes.
It was great 240s
Yes.
and Supras and
Yes.
things of those level.
Yeah.
But US, the Corvettes kind of sucked.
I'm not a C4 fan. I am not a C4 fan.
Most
at all.
people aren't.
No,
Only people that
no.
are C4 fans are people that happen to own one.
Yeah, and they still think they're worth a lot, and that's the bad thing. Like I'm like, oh man, you could buy a C4 and hack it up, make it maybe cool. No, they still want a lot of money for them.
And they just don't have like good geometry for anything.
No.
As far as like engine bay
No,
is
but
like,
they are light.
engine bay is weird.
Getting in and out is the worst thing.
Yeah,
like
'cause
that,
you're like
yeah.
you like fall down into it.
And then the dash gets in your way, and you gotta kind of
Yeah, C4s just don't really. You never see them at the racetrack doing anything.
Yeah, there's a reason.
in like an OEM-ish form.
Right.
Like you don't see them like a cage and stuff.
Yeah.
You got two handles too.
Oh, okay, that's probably my problem.
Might be
There we
losing.
go. Oh, that was what it was. I only had one type.
Yeah. Yeah, C4s just never did it for me. The
Yeah.
F bodies, it's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Until you own one, I think you really can't appreciate it.
Yeah. I like the torque arm.
Yeah. Being inside a Mustang makes me not want to drive them. The Fox bodies are too tight.
Yeah, they are.
The SN95s are too tight.
Yeah.
The interior's too small. I fit
Yeah.
so much better in my car
Yeah.
than I do in my Mustang.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely fun though. But yeah, so if it came down to me, I'd probably say a 4th gen just because I think you can get them for a decent price. Plus, if you've been around them, you kind of know your way around them, and makes it easier to do them.
They fit a good tire.
Yeah. No matter what, though, if you want to try and be original nowadays, everybody's done something, so you really can't,
That's why I like the wagon with the big block. I thought that was kind of cool, like a big block nitrous wagon with didn't have a carburetor
They
on
definitely stepped outside of the box with that, and they did really, really good with it. They ran into some issues too, just like everybody does when you build a car in 10 days. Plus the fact that it caught on fire. Plus the fact that we were supposed to have raced right then and there afterwards, and then it wasn't until 6 months to a year later it seemed like before we actually got to race.
Yeah, you don't even remember what the car is.
Yeah,
at that point.
What wires you ran where and why for what. So,
yeah. Exactly, because some people that don't know wiring probably did a pretty bad job in there. You got to get in, touch some wires together and stuff. That's how my car would be.
Yeah.
If I had to build one in 10 days,
Yeah.
shit, I built one in 6 months.
Yeah,
and
but
have to
you
do
also
that.
got to realize that you have people on a team that, okay, hey, this guy can wire, this guy can tune.
Yeah.
And you kind of have people designated to do stuff, and everybody was all hands on deck doing it, so it's actually a lot of fun, and, you do a pretty good job, I feel.
So if you were to build a car now, it'd be a 5.3, 4th gen.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going on a
Simple
10K budget,
10K.
yeah. I really, really want to do a drag and drive car. Personally, that's my next kind of one that I want to do. I've wanted to do one for so long, but now it's to the point where it's like, all right, I have my car, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But I would like to just start with something fresh.
So then I guess that would be the next question is what chassis do you go with?
I really want to do like a wagon, and I don't know.
The Blazer that Garrett has is a pretty good drag and drive car.
Yeah.
Got a good amount of space in the back.
Yeah.
You can tow something with it.
Yeah.
Because it's actually has a chassis for towing.
That's true.
It's a pretty good car because they have a lot of parts for them too.
Yeah. And see, that's also part of it is you start thinking about like if you could do something that you could get parts for it easily because in case it does break, then you can go and get something for it,
Well, that's how my Mustang was. I was like, I want stock brakes on it.
Yeah.
I want stock steering components.
Yep.
Like trying to keep it relatively easy
Exactly.
to maintain and work on. You want to be able to rebuild it at the parts store if you have to.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why an American car where they're in the junkyard is nice too.
Yeah.
Because I was at a junkyard actually on my first drag and drive.
Getting parts.
Getting a wheel.
Oh yeah, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, I had a caliper go through the wheel.
Yeah.
So that's always fun.
Yeah. At least you had stock ones on it, like so they were cheap. Not like you had some welds or something.
Didn't go through a weld.
Yeah.
And that was funny too because people were like, should have had good wheels on there. I'm like, yeah, but it's just destroyed a good.
It would have
It's a
cost
brake
me more money.
caliper. It didn't care.
Yeah.
It didn't care what wheel was in front of it.
Yeah. No, I've really liked wagons, and I kind of like the idea of the outside not being so nice, because when you go to the track, you get rubber on it, you get prep on it.
Yep.
If you're working on it, you drop a wrench on the fender. Who cares?
That's how
Where
my
you have
car is.
when you have a really nice car or a really nice paint job, it just makes you more paranoid about that kind of stuff, and you can kind of enjoy the car or enjoy the sport more, I feel, if you don't really have to worry about it as much. But I do really like nice, clean drag cars, but for owning one, I think
It's tough.
it'd be cool.
Yeah, it's a balance how nice you want it to how easy
Right.
it is. Because,
Exactly.
I open trailer my car 1,000 miles.
Right.
And it's not easy on a car.
No, for sure.
So it makes it pretty nice to just, have something you don't super care about every little scratch and stuff.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I really got a better example when I started.
Yeah.
Because now I got the motor swap isn't much, but once you do the cage and stuff, then you're kind of stuck to that chassis.
Yeah. You kind of end up like Joey Heichel with the outside looking like crap, and then it's like a pro mod on the inside. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, are those carbon floors and rusted quarter panels?
Yes.
That's a weird combo.
Yeah. It works.
I mean, hey, it doesn't matter. It works. And that's what I always try to tell people. A running car is better than a freaking clean car on jack stands.
That's true. Yep. That is very true. Yep. So.
I was very close to buying a blown up base model CTS wagon for $1,000.
Really?
And it sold before I could get there. It was a black blown up CTS wagon.
That would be a cool one.
I know. I was like, $1,000. I didn't have any plan for it at the time, but I was like, $1,000.
That's a pretty good one.
Clean car, blown up.
Yeah.
All you have to do is put a bumper on it, and
Yeah.
it's a V. They look, because the V wagons use the base model rear bumpers, as opposed to every other CTS V that used its own unique rear
I didn't know
bumper.
that.
So it's literally just a front bumper.
Oh, it's and some emblems, and it looks like
And it's a V clone.
That's pretty cool.
I know. I was like, it'd be a cool burnout car.
Yeah.
Or just a race car.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
something to ruin and.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
When you're thinking wagon, I assume G-body or something along those lines.
I
like a
actually,
Malibu.
oddly enough, so I've worked for GM at a dealership for 15 years, so I'm, GM tech my whole life, and I really, if it goes fast, I'm cool with it. So I'm really into the Coyotes. I've been impressed with what they do, and I kind of want to step outside my box and do something Coyote. Obviously, turbo. I build turbo kits, so I enjoy doing that. So I'd like to do a turbo Coyote in something, and so that's a wide motor.
Yeah.
So trying to find an engine bay that you can put it into without having to make a whole tube chassis car. So I actually kind of like the Granada or something like that. Something I think would be kind of cool to do one in and be able to do drag and drives. And I got dogs, so I think it'd be cool to throw the dogs in the back and
like a streetable
cruising.
wagon.
Yeah, just drive it around back home Kansas City, or bring it down here and just drive it around and then just enjoy it. But yeah, so I think
early GM wagons didn't give you much room strut tower wise.
Exactly.
And Coyotes need all the strut tower room.
Exactly. So I thought about doing one of these, but
I measured.
You
It's
can't
too
do
tight.
it. No, yeah, it's like you're hacking everything out. I'm like, I don't really want to go that far with it. So it'd be nice to find something with a bigger engine bay. I feel that I could do something like that. And
Because I had that blue one and I measured. I did a bunch of measuring and I was like, it's just
What'd you do with the blue
not
one?
going to happen. I sold it. I made like $600 off it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I was like, all right, whatever. It's gone.
Yeah,
I'll take a $600 profit off of having a car.
Yeah, that's not. You cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a cool car.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that
It's
one.
the
That was
only
a good
time
one.
I've ever owned a non-base model. It was the
moldy,
non-base model of the race cars that I was going to build, and it didn't feel right.
Yeah,
Had T-tops. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, I get it. So
No T-tops on an F-body.
Yeah. My car's a T-top car. It makes it easier for putting the cage in, so I like that side of it. But at the same time, I don't ever take them out. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't got a mullet, so I'm probably not going to let it blow in the wind. But
yeah, after I was at the track and the guy's T-top came off in front of me and shattered on the track, I was like, I hate T-tops.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was in the burnout box and I just watched all this glass shatter. I was like,
yeah. Yeah. The good old didn't latch it down.
It may have been. Who knows? They're old cars.
Yeah.
They flex a lot.
It could have just flexed and popped out of there, yeah. But,
That's the other thing. They flex a lot. I just put subframe connectors on this one like a few months ago and trying to take as much flex out of it as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So up that way, do you guys do really any radial racing up that way? It seems like it's all street and I-29.
Yeah, I mean, so in Kansas City, we used to have a drag strip, and they closed it down because the city and, just the typical political crap that they don't like them, and that kills the sport.
Drag racing is scary.
Yeah, and then they were supposedly building a new track, and then COVID happened, so I haven't heard anything about it. So there's not really... There's tracks within an hour from Kansas City, I would say, but most of them are not. They're not really like, Bradenton.
Yeah.
So I mean,
most tracks aren't.
No, but I mean, it's like the shutdowns are really short. Their eighth mile, where there's a lot of thing, and then the whole track itself is sketchy. So.
Yep.
But. Yeah, no prep or low prep is mainly what we're around. There's not really a whole lot of real sticky surfaces to go.
Because I-29 is one of the fairly close.
Yeah, that one's decently close. It's about 3 hours from Kansas City.
Yeah, that's like me going to Orlando.
Yeah, and it's a better track in my opinion. There's US 36, which has a really, really short shutdown. Like literally at the end of the 8th mile, both lanes go together to one, and then you got to try and turn around and not go into a cornfield.
Nice.
So it's like a lot of, if you're moving,
I'm sure it was perfect when they built it 15 years ago.
Exactly, but now it's like, hey,
when your 10-second car was something serious.
Yeah, my car runs like 6.0s, and I'm like, oh my God, I still got me like power brakes and everything, and I'm on the brakes, and I'm like, these people going down there, at really fast speeds. So
when it comes to who's the craziest person, wins the race.
Exactly.
That's when it starts to get a little sketchy. Because I was thinking about going up to Ice Cream Cruise, and I'm like, I don't know, like there's just not that racing for me.
Right.
Like go up there with a radial tire setup car, it's like, it's tough. Like what am I going to do up there?
Yeah, but I mean, it's more. It's fun. I mean,
the event is great.
Yeah.
It's a long way for me to haul my car.
It is. It is a long, long way to haul the car.
The event is awesome. But for me personally, with my car setup, I don't think the racing would be great for me.
Yeah. I
Go get beat up by a Joey Heichel or.
Well, and that's one thing he's kind of stopped doing is he's kind of like realizing that because he typically dominates the race, that he kind of steps out of it and he just lets other people kind of race, and so some of them he's not racing at.
He's just kind of like the coordinator of the event.
Yeah, so which is cool for the sport because it brings more people to it. So.
Yeah, that's tough because, you gotta step aside and...
Yeah.
In the no-time racing and the no-prep racing, there's not really rules for what you can have engine-wise.
Yeah.
Like, we kind of have some in street car, but not really. It's pretty wide open.
Yeah.
I would say it's one of the more wide open races.
Yeah.
Like, sanctioned racing. You can have really any engine combo, which is a little insane.
Yeah.
Gets a little crazy out there when you have 3,000 horsepower street cars.
Yeah.
Not saying any names or anything, but Cleus McFarlane.
Yeah.
When you have a big block with Pro Mod turbos.
Yeah.
But they're working on rule adjustments for that. They kind of need to.
Yeah, I mean, because eventually everybody wants to, participate. So, but if there's no point in going and racing in a race that if you're not going to win or you have no chance of winning.
Yeah. I mean, you look at any of the really high dollar racing anywhere, and they make the rules so tight that they're within like 1/1000 of each other.
Right.
And that's really crazy that they can make the rules for Ultra Street, Pro 275, LDR so close that they're within 1/1000, but that's where it gets extremely expensive.
Right.
Because that's where you're going through like 4 different converters trying to figure out what's right for you.
Exactly.
You're putting 10 pounds there that was there. Try this. Like you get your shocks valve 10 times a season trying different things. Like that's where it gets like. That's where class racing gets terrible.
Yeah, it can.
it definitely gets a little rough. So you were talking about Joe, and how long ago was Joe's accident? 'Cause that was like
2019, I believe, is when it happened.
I think that was when I was first building my F body, and I was like, oh man, like
Yeah.
that kind of made me think a lot about building cars and what kind of racing and stuff like that.
Yeah. It was hard on all of us. I mean, Joey in particular, but it was one of those deals where, obviously, wasn't expecting that. Young, living an amazing life,
racing
doing
was
everything.
crazy.
Yeah, and it happened, and it shook all of us up, and we were really close because of the horsepower wars deal, and then that happened. So, but yeah, I his car. I don't know if and more cage would have helped it, or you never know. But
Yeah.
I mean, the cage that was in it, he was going faster than what he should have. So that really kind of like opens your eyes, and it makes you kind of realize you only get one life. You know what I mean? So it's like you might as well put money into safety and make cars safer as much as you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything can happen, but at least don't go out there and
Play the stepping stone game almost, where like suddenly you have more power.
Yes.
Then you're out of cage. Suddenly you have more cage, and then you're kind of out of power for
Yeah.
your cage, and you play that weird stepping stone game. And sometimes people take too many steps in one direction.
Because horsepower nowadays is so easy to make, and everybody overlooks the. Not everybody. Most people overlook the safety.
Safety's hard.
It
Safety is
It's
like-
expensive too.
it's-
I mean,
yeah.
I install cages. I know it isn't cheap. I mean, it's one of those things that. It's almost like we talked about. You said it's kind of an unfair advantage, whereas I'm putting money into safety equipment, and this person's putting money into horsepower. Well, yeah, I put weight on myself and didn't gain anything, and you did, and it gives you an advantage.
I know one of the bars at the fab shop, they're like, yeah, like this bar takes like 6 hours.
Yeah,
And it's like, oh,
yeah,
that sucks. Like
yeah,
that is a ball breaker right there to pay a fab shop 6 hours of labor
Yeah.
to put in one bar.
yeah. But I mean, it's those things that
Yeah.
you got to do them,
And you pay the people that do them right.
yeah,
You don't just pay some random guy. Like building an engine, you can just, if your engine fails, it's whatever.
yeah,
At the end of the day, like it's not like
yeah.
super
Yeah.
big issue. Yeah, did you guys like upgrade a lot of safety after that, or kind
So-
of rethink some
so-
things where you race? Because I know that,
Yeah, so that happened, and we're
but where he was racing was a little weird too.
yeah, it was another one of those things, kind of weird. The whole situation that happened and how it happened, and I mean, it happened at the end of the track or the street per se. So
It was like a legal street race, right?
yeah, it was a legal street race, and he was. When you're at the very end of the track, that's when everything's going well. Personally, that's one of the reasons I like 8th mile better than quarter mile, is because in my eyes, after the 8th mile, it's just for the most part purely speed.
Yeah.
And a lot of bad stuff can happen at that point. But it's just a matter of opinion. But yeah, so after that had happened, I actually had went to Joey and said, "Hey, man." Because his was under way under also, you know, and I was like, we're gonna.
Well, when you no time race, you can kind of get away with.
Yeah.
You can kind of get away with safety because the safety crew doesn't really know what you're doing.
Right. They don't know what the car's running.
No. They have no idea.
So it's up to the the driver, and the guy next to you to try and figure out what's the best thing to do. And
Yeah, when you strap in that thing, it's kind of
Yeah.
on you. At that point, I always tell people, you're not getting one past the safety guy. You're
Yeah.
just kind of doing it to yourself.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good that at least Joey.
Yeah. Well, and when we did it, I said, whatever, let's go above and beyond. It's like, let's go with the most cage we can go with this on this car and do it. And I said, well, I don't care how long it takes. We're just going to do it. We did. He came down every weekend for 4 months, from Omaha to Kansas City.
What did it have? Just like an 8-point cage in it before?
It was an 850 cage, yeah.
He was going pretty fast with an 850. And then the street's tough, though, because almost no amount of safety is really going to do it, like, on some of those street roads like
Right.
that, where there's just, like, a ditch
Yeah,
or a
I mean,
telephone pole.
you
And, like,
poles or any of that stuff, it's just, it's crazy that instantly something can just change. You know, you can have engine blow and get on the tire, and you're gone, or a bar break or something. Car goes into the wall or something. So.
Yeah, I mean, I had my car on fire at TX2K
Fires.
a couple years back. It was transmission overflow right onto the exhaust, and
Yep,
it was exciting. It
Yeah.
was, really livened up that pass.
Yeah. Then you're thinking, how quick can I get out of this thing?
Yeah.
And that's another thing with the cage. You got to be able to get out of that thing. So.
Yeah, some people are pretty slow. I've seen some fires where people are a little slow getting out of there.
Yeah.
And racers aren't always exactly the most in shape people to be climbing out of a car that's on fire.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's switch to not that, because I feel bad bringing that up, because I didn't know him really. I knew of his car, and I was always like a huge fan of the car because I was like, damn, that's the coolest F body right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was a true Firehawk too. It was a cool car, and him and Joey were literally like attached to the hip, ran around everywhere together. So it was a great part of my life to be able to know him and hang out with him. So
Yeah, it's a really cool deal, and very, very unfortunate, but it's just crazy. Like, everybody, when you get in the car, like, that's like always your potential.
The thing is it's our passion. We love doing it. You know what I mean? And you can go out doing what you love. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it's something you want to do, but I mean, when you strap in, that's what you're doing. So.
Yeah. Well, you have been a GM tech for how long? Or you were a GM tech until recently.
So I went through this thing called the ASEP program because I was in college, like a community college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I took an automotive class just to like fill up some time, and I ended up kind of enjoying it. And then 2-year program, became a GM tech, and started in like 2007. And so for 15 years, a GM tech, and certified in pretty much all the areas to work on them.
So like a master level GM tech.
Yeah, I didn't do, there's some that you have to like go and do, like to become a master tech. You have to like go and take all these crazy tests. I'm like, man, I'm not really worried about all that stuff. But I had the most of the check marks. So, but yeah.
And you just had the most recent C8 too. Did you guys get rid of yours?
Yeah. So when I was working at the dealership, the C8 came out, and I was like.
Yeah, get one of those.
I'm a Corvette fan, I've got a C806, so I was like, that would be another cool one to have, So my wife and I were kind of sitting there talking about it one night, and at the time I was trying to push her into getting a truck. I was like, we should get a truck. And then, a few drinks later, she's like, we should get a Corvette. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, they're really close in
so
similarity.
Somehow wound up getting the...
Price-wise, they're about the same.
Yeah, about the same. So, so we got the orange C8, and phenomenal car. Really, really cool car. I know you're not a Corvette fan, but they are a cool car.
I was there for the unveiling of them.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really cool. And then, like, after driving it, I was like, all right, I don't need one.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel the need for one.
Yeah, I get that. Truly, I wanted a ZO. That was my thing, but they hadn't came out yet. And I was like, oh, this will be a stepping stone. We'll get this one, and then we'll get the ZO. Not knowing that they were going to be so hard to get, so. But, yeah, we waited... like 9 months to get that one, and it showed up, and it's the first car, probably the only car I ever bought brand new. And I was a tech at the time, so I got to do the PDI, so I got to pull all the stickers off of it. It had 2 miles on it, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool, and got to fill it up with the first tank of gas, so it's something you don't normally ever get to do. So
yeah, especially on like a flagship car like
that.
Oh yeah. Such a big car for GM.
It was, and they did an amazing job with it. It's a really, really cool
The only
car.
thing that got me was those buttons on the inside. The straight line of buttons.
Yeah. The thing is, you can
it
use
always
the screen.
made it weird.
You could use the screen.
Yeah.
So if you have the screen, I think most people that own Corvettes are probably older, so I get why they have the buttons. And I personally like the buttons, but I would have rather had them on the screen.
It was just a weird spot for them.
Yeah, that was kind of strange, but I mean, it worked. Because you had both. You could use these or those. They were just kind of an eyesore, but yeah.
But now they're hybrid.
I think it's cool. I'm not a huge against EV or any of the electric stuff because it's progression and I think it's cool. Obviously, I don't think the world's ready for us to just get rid of.
I think hybrid's the way to go. But is GM qualified at this time to make a hybrid sports car?
I think so.
Have their hybrids been?
Well,
What other hybrid, like, what's their resume
So,
for hybrid
okay.
cars look like?
I'll give you this. You're right.
You
So
know,
they
like-
had, I think it was like in 2010, they had a hybrid Tahoe. Dumbest thing ever. I mean, it was more money. It only got like 1 mile to the gallon better. You couldn't have 22s on it. I mean,
Yeah.
no. I'm with you on that one.
They saved more. They saved more on that car by making it aerodynamic.
Yes, they
than
did.
they did by making it
Yes,
hybrid.
yes. I
They
would
made
agree.
it more efficient by just getting rid of the roof, things,
Yeah,
the runners,
yeah.
and putting a bigger front,
the front
dam.
bumper, had a bigger dam on it.
I think
yeah.
that's
and they
more
all had
of
that
the
goofy
savings.
hybrid thing on the side of them. It's like, you know.
And then they
yeah.
put some transmission in there that had metal.
Yeah.
Like, I think the transmission was the hybrid motor.
Yeah.
Which-
it had it had a motor inside the transmission,
Yeah.
and you had like an auxiliary pump on the side of it that would pump fluid through it, and they don't. You're right.
That's what I'm wondering. Is their resume good enough to where they're like, our flagship car is going to be hybrid now, and everybody should just trust that we got this down.
I feel that the corporation has done very well with that, and I was one of 3 hybrid techs, so I actually worked on them. The Volt was a pretty good car, in my opinion. I didn't really work on a whole lot of the bolts with a B.
Yeah, the Bolt, and then the Volt.
But we
was the
really
bigger
didn't have
one.
a whole lot of problems with them.
Cadillac had one that was.
Yeah, but we didn't
Same
really have a lot
chassis.
of problems with them. So I see what you're saying, but I think they'll be okay with it. I mean, it's a big corporation, so I feel that they're going to be able to do it. And an all-wheel drive Corvette's pretty badass. So.
The all-wheel drive Corvette is great. I
Yeah.
think it sounds great on paper.
Yeah.
I hope that they're prepared to deliver what they're.
Well, they've
what
held
they're
it for so
saying.
long. I mean, look how long they've been holding out on all this, I mean, you remember years ago when they had that, it looked like a Holden, like a truck, that thing. That
Yeah.
was the C8.
That was the unveil that me and Garrett went
Yeah,
to,
exactly, yeah.
and it had a Porsche transmission in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, it's got a Porsche transmission in it." And I was like, "Huh."
I knew they had transmission issues, so they were trying to figure it out and have Tremec do all that kind of stuff. And but yeah, I actually had my hands in quite a few of those transmissions, the new Tremecs. I've done
Yeah.
several of those.
Really already?
Yes.
Huh. That
Yeah.
seems a little soon. To
Well,
be
it was
touching
a test.
transmission.
It was kind of a testing deal.
Okay,
so-
that makes sense.
but
I was
yeah.
gonna say that seems pretty soon to be messing with transmissions on
Yeah,
a C8.
they weren't that bad. I mean, I didn't mind working on them, but yeah, it was a kind of a cool deal. So
Yeah, I
But-
think without any tuning though, all the cars become a lot less desirable.
yeah, but now they've done it.
Yeah,
So
they have aftermarket like a Fuel Tech or a Holly in there.
Well, one of the companies that's doing stuff to them, they can actually tune them, to my knowledge.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
A supercharger company.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can actually tune those.
Eric's
and-
actually somebody I'd like to talk to on here.
Well, we can work that out because I was actually talking to him the other day. He was telling me he was in San Francisco looking at a really, really cool like car collection. So yeah, but yes, that would be. He would talk your ear off. He'd be
Yeah,
a good one
Eric's
to get. Yeah.
Me and Eric have talked a few times, and he was trying to get me to put up one on my freaking 2J, and I'm like, dude, you're crazy. I'm not taking they're great, but I'm not taking off my freaking turbo.
Yeah, I don't know. Everybody has their things.
I get it. I mean, I get why
Yeah.
you would want to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get it too. But yeah, I mean, if it works, why
Yeah.
change it? So
Turbos
maybe
are-
another car. Maybe
Turbos
move
are
to-
pretty great.
Yeah, they are pretty freaking cool.
They're pretty efficient.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
hybrid technology. So, do you think that the ZR1 then will be supercharged, electric, or bigger battery, or?
So what I've heard, the ZR1 will be essentially the Z06 engine, which is the 5.5 liter flat plane crank with twin turbos and the electric all-wheel drive. So supposedly it's supposed to be around the 1,000. Whether or not that's true or not, that's just what the internet says.
Yeah.
They can't lie.
I imagine that thing will be pretty quick in the quarter mile. This new one.
Yeah, I mean, so mine was the base model, obviously, and I think I did like a 3.4 0 to 60, no burnout on the street, just and that was impressive to me. And the new electric one, what does it, a 2.5?
I think so. Well, the weird thing is the old ones didn't really spin. Like they didn't have traction issues. Like if you try to go race like a
Yeah.
C606,
Yeah.
you're gonna be
well, I mean,
struggling.
you got all that weight back there on the back tires, so that really helps out.
And the trans are a little like kind of slow to just like fully engage.
Yeah.
That's the same with like the GT500. Like you'd launch it and you'd feel like power wasn't in until like, because you'd have like 14 clutches slipping each other.
Yeah.
So like you would never feel like you were launching to its potential.
Yeah.
And that's the dual clutch feel that you get. But
I like that transmission. I think it's really, really cool. I mean, that's something that the Corvette community had been wanting for so long, and they finally did it. And it's like, well, good, you know? Because in my eyes, GM has screwed up everything else. Like, you came out with a Blazer. That's not the Blazer. I mean, like...
Yeah, Bronte has one. The Trailblazer RS.
But I mean, like, make a Blazer. You can call it something else, you know?
Well, that's like... It's not even a GM car.
Right.
It's like a Korean...
Yeah, it's got like a little 3-cylinder in it.
Yeah, it's a 3-cylinder turbo. Like, when you look at the brochure, it's like 90% made in Korea.
Right.
It's not... It's hardly like a GM car. It feels like a rebadged car that they just like bought from overseas.
It's kind of like the new Bronco. I'm a fan. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
But the Bronco Sport, an Escape or whatever you want to call it, you know, it's like, just make one, you know? And I feel like at least Ford did well with the Bronco, you know, to make a...
Even that they could have done better, like engine-wise, I think.
I agree.
I think a Coyote would have been a better option.
I agree. I mean, you'd think if they came out with the Raptor that it would have a Coyote
I think they've
really
had
cool
a huge recall on those, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they've had like 300,000 recalls or something crazy for engine issues. Engines like knocking or stuff like that. But I think in the next 5 years, we're just going to see more and more recalls.
Oh, yeah.
Because the forced ambitious that they have to be to meet all of the requirements of the EPA and then also to meet requirements of the consumer are just such high expectations.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think they should abolish the EPA.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's for sure. I agree with that. But I think the OEM are just kind of like rolled over on their back at this point. Like,
you're 100% right. Yeah. Like
but we have to do this for them.
If we don't, then, But,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what would you buy from GM right now if you were, like, I know you have quite a few GM cars. What's out there right now that's super alluring?
Obviously a C806 is what I would really want. I would take an E-Ray. I'd prefer the C806 just because the flat plane crank, the whole car all around, to me, that would be cool. But when it comes to that, anything like that, there's not really, I mean, they make good trucks too. Other than that, they don't make a car that I like.
They're falling off a little bit on the truck world because the emission stuff kind of hurts them a little bit.
Yeah, but I still think, I mean...
they're still the best truck. They're better than the Ford. Walking is better than a Dodge.
So, to me, though, I really like the new Fords. If I'd take a new Ford. The Dodges aren't horrible.
Yeah, I
mean, I wouldn't get a gas one.
Yeah, I wouldn't get a gas one. But the other thing is, like, the Chevys have independent front suspension, which makes them ride way better than everything else. Yeah. All Dodges have solid front suspension.
Okay.
Which... It's great if you're mudding.
Yeah.
It's not great when you're towing for 1,000 miles.
I like all the GM's SUVs. Those are pretty nice. I haven't really had one of the new ones, so like the 21s and up. But
yeah, now they went to IRS on those too.
They did do that, but it probably has a better ride.
It's probably great, but like gets a little questionable.
Are you gonna drag race it?
I mean, I just don't. I don't always trust GM with IRS stuff. I've had some bad IRS vehicles from them. Rear ends breaking, axles failing.
Well, yeah,
it's a heavy car.
Yeah.
It's a heavy vehicle to do an axle like that.
But yet again, you're not really going to go out and do the stuff that we do, hopefully. But
yeah, I mean,
what do you think about the new Escalade V?
The Escalade V is cool for $140,000 though.
Well, and the whole thing, the biggest thing with GM right now is they're allowing this markup stuff. That stuff drives me nuts. It's like, okay, don't let the dealers mark it up, make it so that the people can get it for at least the sticker price and go on with life. I mean, it sucks, but it's just part of it,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's something that GM needs to step up and do personally, but...
It was really interesting, the C7 ZR1 felt like it had the shortest life.
Yeah, 1 year.
Like, it was like a blip.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, we made the greatest car ever
for
a blip.
Yeah. And have you seen it?
And now they're way up in price.
Insane.
But they're so great.
They are cool cars.
Those are really awesome, and they blipped them so quickly that they're just going to be so rare.
Oh, yeah. They're always going to be desirable.
And so sought after.
Yep.
And C6 ZR1s are great, but they feel very archaic inside for what people are asking for them.
Yeah. I talking about this the other night with my wife, and I said she really likes the C6 ZR1, and I'm like, if it was me, I would take a Z06 over the ZR1 and the C6. But when it comes to the C7, I would take the ZR1 over the Z06.
For sure. The thing that got me was that hydro-dipped carbon stuff that they did. It's so cheesy looking on the dash on those things.
My Z06,
they rattle.
The whole inside of them, you're just like, man, this thing is old. The outside doesn't look bad, but the inside, you're like, especially if you got one with nav.
This was their flagship?
Yeah, the navigation on them is so ghetto looking. You're like, wow, look at this.
Even my 2012 CTSV with the thing that goes up, it went up the other day and it showed it's like main
logo.
Screen, and I'm like, put that back down. That makes it look 10 years older.
Yeah, technology's come so fast.
Yeah, that's why a lot of the newer cars are doing no infotainments at all.
Yeah.
So that they don't just get outdated in a year.
Yeah.
That's what Bugatti does.
Yeah.
They don't do anything in there.
Oh, really?
Because they don't want it to be outdated.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it's always going to look timeless. So.
And that's the same thing as older automatic cars seem so outdated because the transmissions were pretty bad.
Right.
But older stick shift cars don't, because like a automatic C6, the transmissions were not ideal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes it feel even worse when you're driving it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
An automatic C7 feels pretty good.
Yeah, because in the C6, if you were driving it and you use the paddle shifter, it was you're like, whoa, what took so long?
Can't put any power through it.
Yeah.
And there's parts for them is pretty tough.
Yeah.
But then the C7s, people go low 9s on those things, unopened, untouched. Thankfully, because pulling a torque tube out is
it can be a challenge. But once you've done them, they're really not bad, especially if you're on a lift.
Well, you're a GM tech, so it doesn't really count.
Yeah, but it's once you do it and you get after it, they're really not bad at all. I don't mind doing them. So I mean, a lot of people can. I don't like messing with brake lines and stuff, so you can just move the calipers and stuff out of the way, so you don't have to jack with any of that stuff and pull the whole torque tube out. So
you pull the whole subframe out. Drop that down.
Yeah, it just makes it a little bit easier to do. So, but
the nice thing on when we did it a bunch on Leroy was we ditched all the e-brake cables and stuff.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
That speeds things up a lot.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, you got all those things to deal with. And the older ones, like the C5 and the C7s and C6s, the lower ball joints they'd always stick in there really good. And you have a big pry bar trying to get them to pop. But the new C8, it just comes right out. So they're pretty nice.
Yeah, I've seen some people with the new C8 Z06 having leaking transmissions and stuff right off the kick.
Oh, really?
Brand new, right into the shop.
We had when I was still at the dealership, we had one that was leaking from the transmission, and it was a pretty significant leak, and it was a casting flaw, and so they ended up getting a whole new transmission for it. So.
Yeah, I know their benchmark was the Porsche 911.
Yeah.
Which is a tough benchmark.
Hey, but I'll give it this.
Ambitious.
Okay, so let's go to the Ford GT.
Well, I mean, the Ford GT was a flop.
I think it's a cool car, but it's a huge boner killer when you put a V6 twin turbo in it. I'm like, what was that?
And for $500,000.
Yeah. So
really hurts.
The fact that the C8 is so reasonably priced, if you can get one, with the performance of it, it's pretty cool job. So.
But are they? I look at things as the step up. So from the C7 Z06 price to the C8 Z06 price, they took a big leap.
They did.
So they kind of kicked in. They kind of kick in the shins to some of their diehard followers that were like, I just buy the new one every year, and then it's like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
Because if you look at a car like the Ford GT500, they're almost selling for what they sold the old one for.
Right.
And that is a really good car for that money.
Yeah.
They're like $85,000, $90,000
for the GT500s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that gets
But it's also a Mustang.
You can almost make 1,000 horsepower on those motors.
No, but you're also dealing with a Mustang.
Yes, you are dealing with the same Mustang that Hertz rental car has.
Yeah.
The same chassis.
Yeah. And when GM jumped out and said, hey, we're going to do this bold move we've wanted to do forever and make a mid-engine car, I feel they did a really good job, and especially to keep the price down where it was at. I mean, you could get one for $59. Yeah. Even if you got a 1LT base for $59, that car's still going to perform pretty well for a base model car. And you compare that to a lot of other cars out there, it's going to do really, really well against it. But, yeah.
So how close are we then to a 7th-gen Camaro, you think?
I feel the way the government's going, they're pushing everything away from it. And I feel that they're going to have everything obsolete, my personal opinion. I
like
feel
a 7th-gen Camaro Mach-E type of car.
Yeah, I mean,
like
from what I've heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but, the Mustang, the electric Mustang, how it looks nothing like a Mustang, how they shouldn't have called it a Mustang, in my opinion. I think that, for what I've heard, that Mustang was produced so that they were able to produce the next generation Mustang. Because it was kind of like a EPA thing, like, hey, we're going to make this so it's going to offset the numbers of the Mustang.
Yeah.
And make them let it make that still.
So their average fuel economy.
Something like that.
And
I don't know
so
if
you look
true
at
or
like
not.
the Mustang, what is the average fuel economy for the 2023 Mustang?
Exactly.
When you have an all-electric one,
right.
Your fuel economy suddenly looks insane.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of, I get why they would do that.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me if they were doing that. But
car companies buy carbon credits for the same reason.
Exactly.
Dodge has been doing that from companies like Tesla. They buy the credits so that they could produce Hellcats.
The supercharged Hellcats, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, why can't Dodge just put a Hellcat engine in everything?
Right.
And they buy credits.
Yeah.
Which is a weird concept that you have to buy
the
ability to make a V8, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the way that everything's going, like I said, I'm for electric cars. I think it's cool. I mean, obviously they have good performance, but at the same time, it's going to kill the sport that we love. And I don't care what you say, if you get in a Tesla and you floor it and you go down the drag strip and it just flies by and you don't hear anything, it's nowhere near as cool as a car. It makes noise, you know. So I feel like trucks are going to be going away, and they're just going to try to make electric trucks and
I think
everything.
you could get behind the electric a lot more if you could wrench on it in some way.
Yeah.
Or at least plug a laptop into it and do something.
Yeah.
I think that would make the fun a little more instead of just like repeatedly doing the same thing.
Right.
Because definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Exactly. Yes.
And if you're not changing anything on your car,
Yeah.
and you're just going to go run it at a test and tune 50 times.
Right. Yeah, so what are you going to do, put wheels and underglows on it? And, maybe bigger speakers?
Like, hey, I got wheels that are 8 ounces lighter per wheel, and it's going to go faster. And it's like, once you get into that, that's when it gets a lot less fun.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like your truck, I feel like it's just going to skyrocket in value. I feel like they're going to, they're already starting with the DEF stuff, and that to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And, I get we want, to make the earth better because obviously we got to take care of Mother Earth, but at the same time,
I don't know if it starts with the car community.
Yeah, I don't. I agree.
I think we're small, bottom of the barrel on that one.
My biggest thing is we're so worried about what's going on in the United States, we're not looking around the world to what else is going on. I mean, over in China, they're if we can't do it here in the United States, we send it to Mexico or China to do it, and they're still doing it. They're still going to be making the same amount of pollution, in my eyes.
I can't imagine how anybody thinks that a 5,000-pound electric car is good.
Right?
Is helping the environment. You're not driving an electric scooter to work where it's that's something that could be efficient. But when you have a 5,000-pound vehicle you're trying to move, it takes a lot of energy to move it.
Yeah.
That's why only small things being electric is very helpful.
And we as society want, we want the heated seats. We want the TV screens. We want, we're not buying manual roll down windows.
I need 6 doors.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We're not buying that anymore. We have a standard. But yeah, it's times have changed, You're not doing the same thing we were doing 20 years ago. So.
No, and 90s cars are just going to explode.
Oh, yeah.
I think it probably ends at the C7, like that generation where it gets into, even the C7 is tough because, you know, companies that do the tuning software
Yeah.
are losing their ability to allow you to tune things.
Yep.
And yes, you know, aftermarket ECU is a thing, but not with these new transmissions.
Yeah.
For the
And
most
if
part,
you want
they're
everything
tough.
else to work, like, you know, it can be very.
CAN bus is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Anything like, I know people always say like car guys will find a way, but like they make it tough. And
Yeah.
if there's no money in there to find a way,
Yeah.
nobody's gonna do it.
Right.
Like nobody's gonna spend $100,000 on R&D
Right.
to make the transmission on the C8 work
Yeah.
if, you know, there's not gonna make that back.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. But yeah, I truly feel like any of the cars from the 90s, the 80s, you know, any of those cars, even the 2000s are going to be sought after because I think they're stopping the Camaro in 24, right?
Yeah, I heard GM's trying to do the all electric, so
Okay. So
I hope they just stop it.
yeah, I mean,
let the name die if
yeah,
you're going all electric.
Do it something else.
Yeah, like bury the name. You know, if things change, pull it back out of retirement. Don't
Yeah, I agree.
don't use the name.
Yeah.
Let it
Same
die.
thing with-
You let it die before. You let
Yeah.
the Camaro die,
Yeah.
name die before,
Yeah.
and then you resurrected it with the 5th gen, which was pretty good, I would say.
Just
resurrection
heavy.
of
Yeah,
it.
it was a pretty good car, I think.
I think it was a good resurrection from
Yeah.
the 4th to the 5th.
Yeah.
I don't love them, but I think it's a good.
I like the 6th gen. I think they improved a lot on the 6th gen.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks a little bit better, but still has some of the 5th gen stuff to it.
The early 5th gen taillights and rear ends I didn't like.
Yeah.
When they did the facelift on them,
Yeah.
it looked really good. And I will still 100% own a Z28 5th gen.
Dude, it's like my wife and I were talking about this the other day, that you could buy them cheap for a while.
I know.
And now they're like, through the roof.
They're so good, though.
They are.
They're so good.
I mean, how can you go wrong with that? I mean, that's one of the reasons we kept our Z06 that we have. I mean, 427, manual transmission. You can't go wrong with a big engine and a manual transmission in a car.
The problem is, there are people out there that option that car without AC.
That would be cool. If I was to get one, that would be awesome.
No shot.
No.
No shot.
No, trust me, I agree with you. It would suck, but how many of them are there?
I can understand optioning it without the radio.
But there's only one option. You get radio and AC,
And
or
AC.
no radio and AC.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, but
That's a
think about
weird
it.
option that they did that.
It is, but think about it, okay? So, goes back to like the 2000 Cobra R. Remember that? You didn't even have the antenna, it had the piece of cork or whatever in it. And I just think those cars are cool because of, look at like an old 69 Copo. I mean, that thing came with a big engine and a manual transmission, bare bones, just a race car. And I think that's kind of what those are nowadays.
I get it as the bare bones race car, but unfortunately, they didn't sell enough to where
No,
people are going to go race them.
But that's what makes it cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
love
gonna
the
be
lip
rare.
on them too. That
What?
big ass lip that they had
Oh,
on
yes,
there, and
yes.
the wing that they had and everything.
Yeah.
Like,
How many did they make?
I think they only made like 400.
Z28s?
Yeah.
Well, they made them 2 years, so they made them in 14 and 15.
Because I thought they were numbered on the dash.
I don't know that. I think they made like 3,000. Because you can get them in gray, white,
Or red.
black, or red.
I remember the one that was number 427.
Okay.
Sold for good money.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Of course.
Yeah.
They probably sold to like what's his name, the NASCAR team owner who buys everything.
Yeah, Hendrick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Hendrick, who has
yeah.
like the biggest collection of cars.
Oh, yeah.
You watch him on Meekum and he's like buying everything.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, man, I wish it was that guy had that kind of money.
Yeah, like every like VIN number 001 that they do for charity, it's
Yeah,
like,
he
and Hendrick bought it. I think he
No.
bought the number 1 Corvette,
Yeah, yeah.
the C8, for like $1 million to
Yeah.
charity.
Yeah, that's cool, though.
That is a cool car to get.
Yeah,
I think he has most of the number 1 Corvettes.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, so yeah, that would be a really cool one to have though. A Z28 would be one of my bucket list cars.
I think right now they're in like the 50s, like 58.
Yeah, and
you
most
can get
of them
one.
they're pretty low mileage too. So
It's tough to spend that on a 5th gen though. It's tough to
yeah, but I think you're almost looking at it as an investment.
yeah.
Do you get on Bring a Trailer?
Well, you look at it, because I was looking at them the other day. I'm like, okay, so 5th gen Z28 or a mint 5th gen ZL1. The ZL1s are really good. They have potential to make a lot more power with just a
Yes.
pulley and a tune.
Yes.
Some injectors, E85,
But-
like the entry level LSA kit.
So you would take.
I don't know. It'd
I
be
couldn't
tough.
do it. I
It'd
couldn't
be
do
really
it.
tough to.
But there's so many more of them. Everybody sees them. You know what I mean?
But the Z28s are pretty slow.
I don't really think that it's because they're slow. I just think it's cool because it's what it is.
They're cool for what they are, but they are also slow. Like in a roll race, I think my CTSV would be probably faster than it because it's automatic. It would probably beat it.
Yeah, but it's
Which is
also
a
a
little
road race
sad.
car. It's not really a drag race car. It's a road race car.
Yeah.
So
That's why I gave it the roll race opportunity.
no, I still
They
think
do have the best wheels GM ever put on a car.
they look good. I mean, huge wide wheels up front and back. I mean,
Yep. It was
the
like
whole
a
car. I mean, there's no
305 tire, I think, was
Yeah.
like the biggest tire they ever put on a production car at the time.
There's no trunk in the trunk's bare. There's just metal.
painted.
Yeah, nothing back there.
Maybe
no spare
painted.
tire. Yeah. So I think they're a really, really cool car. I think Doug had one for a while.
That would make sense.
Somebody said that. I forget it. I think Eric was telling me. I think Eric was telling me that Doug had one.
That would make sense.
And it was even the gray one, supposedly, because the gray ones are the rarest color.
Yeah, Garrett, his dad had a white one for a while.
Really?
Yeah. And I think they used it at Sebring a couple times. But his take was it was just a slow, heavy car.
It is, but it's a rare,
yeah.
heavy car.
Great. It's an awesome car.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's because I think I even heard that the like whatever just like the regular V8 package 6th gen car actually beats it on a road course.
Really?
Yeah, the LTs make better power.
Oh, it's 6th gen. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so like a 6th gen track edition car or whatever is faster
The
than
1LE?
it around. Yeah.
Maybe.
Which is a little painful.
Yeah.
That
But I
gets-
mean, it's times change. I mean, it's so different. So back when I was in high
It's
school,
a special car for
yeah,
sure.
it is cool. Like 0304 Cobra. It made what 400? No, 300. Right? 300 or 400 horsepower.
Probably 300.
And the Z06
yeah.
at the time made 405. So I think they made a little bit less than the Z06. And the Z06 was naturally aspirated just a V8 LLS. So times change. I mean, those cars are slow probably now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I mean, we're living in a world where you can make 1,000 horsepower and it's like no big deal. You know? So
Even like the 4th gens, like the GMMT car or whatever it is.
yes.
Much want for one of them.
What about the what were they called?
Like
the
Justin
Dick Harrell,
Keith.
the
Justin
Dick Harrell
Keith
edition?
just got the
Yeah.
Dale Earnhardt one.
The Dale Earnhardt one. Those are cool. Those have always been one of my like kind of like a F body. That's like the holy grail.
Yeah, like triple black,
Yeah.
black interior, black everything.
That's a cool car, but I still think the Dick Harrell ones with the wide fenders, those
Yep.
are pretty freaking cool too.
I know. I was actually looking to see if like some of the panels
body
were
kit.
available.
Yeah.
You can't buy any of that stuff because the front bumper and fenders would be awesome to get.
Yeah, that'd be it definitely a cool look for them. So, but yeah, I always like those cars too. But it's just kind of like what you grew up with. You know, when you were younger, that's what was around. That was the holy cow car. You know, so. But,
Yeah, I don't think there's anything too special as far as the C7s go. Like how 5th gen Camaros have a very special car.
Right.
I don't think.
Well, the 1901.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
other than that, yeah.
But other than that, and again, that's like how the ZL1 Camaro though.
yeah.
Like there's like a no track focused
Yeah.
type of thing like
Yeah.
that where you could get it bare bones.
Yeah.
No AC.
Yeah. Well, not a lot of people don't order something without air conditioning, but yeah.
Because there's even the C6 Z06s, didn't they have a Z07 package or something to them that made them a little more interesting?
I don't know.
I think the C7s had a Z07 package that made them great.
I think the C7 did, but I'm not sure about the C6. The C6 were pretty bare bones. But the C6 Z06 was, in my eyes, one of the first cool cars that GM came out with. Because if you got like a SS Monte Carlo, like like a 05, it was just emblems. There was nothing to it. They didn't really do anything. Whereas the Z06, they actually came out. You got the big engine, you got all the the dry sump oiling, you got the big brakes, you got the embroidered seats. I think it's cool when they do a whole package like that. Like Ford did really good with the SVT package. Any of those were always the whole car, not just like one thing, or emblems. So
Yeah.
GM has overused the SS badges on a lot.
They had a car. They didn't even give the car a name.
That was the dumbest idea ever.
It doesn't even have a name.
It's called an SS. Come on. They should have at least called it an Impala SS or something. You know what I mean?
They could have came up with something.
They could have even called it what was the cop car version of it? The what they call that? The Caprice?
Yeah.
They could have just called it Caprice SS.
Yeah, I always felt the Caprice name was a little too frilly for like
agree.
a performance car.
I agree, but at the same time, they ruined the
And that's
SS.
just an Australian car. They just took the chassis.
Yep.
It's like GTOs. Can't stand GTOs. I'll say it to any GTO owner that I can't stand them.
I mean, I don't want to get you riled up about it. It's a GTO.
That's a GTO. When you launch and the dash is hitting your knees because...
and honestly, if you look really quick, you're like, was that a Grand Am?
And the worst fuel tank location.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
In the back seat.
yeah. With
yeah.
a big cage.
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
Yeah,
I can't do
it wasn't
GTO
a great car, but I mean, and it had independent rear suspension, so that was another kind of.
Yeah, it was a touchy one on that.
Yeah.
They were an Australian car. They didn't make many of them. They just kind of rebadged them as like their...
The first ones were purple, which was like purple.
They're like, hey, this GTO that we used to make is really good. Let's just use that name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the yellow ones, that bright yellow.
That's one thing I can't stand are yellow. I don't like yellow cars.
Yellow cars.
That's what does it for me.
The C7s in yellow were pretty big, though. That was a big color for those cars.
Don't do yellow.
I mean, I don't blame you.
I know it sounds kind of like contradictory, but like if you're talking about like a Lamborghini, sure, make it the Skittle rainbow.
Yeah.
But if you're doing most cars, I'm kind of like, it's like Ferraris, they got to be red, in my opinion. But I'm not a yellow fan on cars, trucks for the most part.
That's why I like Cadillac. Their V lineup, they weren't playing around.
Yeah.
No yellows for their Vs.
No weird colors. Yeah.
They're like bland colors. Maybe you get a red.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And it's a dark red.
Yeah, that is true.
I still always hunt for a XLRV.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sick? It's got a North Star in it.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to forever.
Ugh.
There's something great about it.
It's a C5.
Yeah, exactly.
With a hard top convertible roof that's gonna.
But I don't do Corvettes.
Well, it's a Corvette, so you'd be doing one if you did.
I know,
and
but
the
it's
fact
a
that it has a
Cadillac.
North Star would make me run very, very far.
Yeah, but there's something about the look of them. It's great.
If you went all out drag car with it, I could see maybe.
They're a special car that GM ruined by not letting them put an LS in it. I feel like they didn't do that because they were
had
worried.
an LS in them, didn't they?
They were all North Stars, and
No,
then,
only the V's were North Stars.
no, the base models were also North Stars.
Really?
The V's were a supercharged North Star.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
And then they used a different transmission too. They used like instead of like a 4L60,
Yeah.
they used like a 4L50.
Ugh.
So it made it even worse.
North-
and I think GM did that on purpose to keep the sanctity of the Corvette
Yeah.
like more
They didn't know how to do
special.
like what they did in the 80s where the Grand National was faster or something like that.
They were so
Yeah.
worried about that they were
Yeah.
keeping it down,
Yeah.
which is a little sad because
I don't know.
that's
I
a
still-
rare car though.
They are rare, but that makes them rare also because of the parts and
Yes.
I don't know.
And they had a full convertible hardtop.
Yeah, that's-
3-piece
yeah.
folding hardtop.
Okay, what about the SSR?
The SSRs are pretty interesting.
No, they are not good in any
So
way.
Jeremy at Faster Proms tuned a lot of the trucks or the SSRs, and then they also had he tuned a lot of the truck SSRs. Like I don't know how it happened, but he like kind of just started tuning them, and then like the community made him the guy.
Yeah.
And like he was the guy to tune them, so like
So he
all these old dudes would come around, and like I vividly remember most of the dudes that owned one would wear one of those visors with the fake hair.
Yeah.
That was like the guys that would own them.
yeah, I can see that. I can see that happening.
It's a very particular
But, you know,
car.
so have you ever like worked on one or seen one or?
I've been around them a lot
Okay, it's a Trailblazer. It's a Trailblazer frame.
with a very difficult to get to engine.
Yeah, and the battery's underneath the bed of the truck, like stuck up
Yeah.
underneath it. Yeah, I don't know.
GM did some weird stuff. Even another car that I wanted to get for a while as a daily was the HHR SS.
I saw my share of those too at the dealership. And the first thing people would do, because the turbo, when they had the turbo on them, they would do they called it like a map sensor upgrade. Basically, turn the boost up. That's all it was.
Yeah.
The problem was the wires were so short, they would always pull the wires out whenever you would, because you have like a butt connector and you'd have to like wire it onto it or whatever, and it would like pull the engine back so hard from torque that it would rip the wires out,
Nice.
and then the car go brrr, and they would fall over, and they'd be, every time I get on it, it falls on its face. I was like, well, it was this wiring issue.
They were just like a Cobalt SS.
Yeah, it was Cobalt SS. Which,
But they were kind of cool, and then there was some of them that were like delivery vehicles that had like
They're
no
still-
windows on the side.
they still weren't cool. They were never cool.
They were
It was a
interesting.
Cobalt SS.
They were like, wow, this PT Cruiser is selling. We better make something like that.
Yeah, but that's what they all do. They
Which
all
is
do
a
that.
weird car to copy.
Yes, it is. It is, because the PT Cruiser was even worse to work on than the HHR.
But my grandma had a PT Cruiser that was the Woody one. That thing was the talk of the town when she rolled up in that thing. It had the wood paneling on the sides of it.
So you really wanted an HHR?
As a daily, an HHR SS seemed like a decent option because they had all the room in the back
Yeah.
for things.
Yeah.
And, I'm always driving around with something, but
Yeah.
we didn't get because the daily debate is a very interesting one because you want something that's somewhat
Yeah.
fun and
Yeah.
interesting, and like a turbo 4-cylinder front-wheel drive car
Yeah.
is all of those things. You need it to at least be able to
what's your
carry
daily
things.
right now?
It is a truck, and it's
A truck.
terrible. It's
Okay.
a 2800 Silverado.
I'm when it comes to daily, I'm stock. Maybe it's just me getting older, but I like it stock. I don't want to hear. I want to be able to listen to music or just drive it or.
I agree, but a big 2500
No, it's not.
Sierra diesel isn't a great daily. So I usually drive Bronte's
Oh well, there you go.
Trailblazer RS, but
See, I have a $1,500 Malibu Max, ugly, an '05 Malibu Max, like a hatchback.
See, why couldn't an
Ugh.
HHR be
Yeah,
the
but
daily?
And it probably would be a little bit more fun than the Malibu.
You park it somewhere and you don't care if somebody gets door dings on it.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a Neon for a little while, SRT4,
Yeah.
and I was thinking about making that the daily, but I was like, it just, I don't know. I feel like driving around that, I just wasn't
Yeah.
super pumped
Yeah.
because it's a
probably
loud, it's a loud, obnoxious car where people look at it.
Yeah.
An HHR, nobody looks at it.
Yeah.
You're
That's-
low key.
It's still an HHR though.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. It's fair. But then what else is a good daily? It has to be somewhat fun, but also decent on gas.
Dailies don't have to be fun. Dailies are just, hey, I got to get wherever I'm going. Now, if it's fun, that's just an addition.
Yeah,
Which,
because I'm
but the
not
bad
gonna
thing
go
is,
drive my
if
CTSV.
you have a daily that'll do a burnout, you're going to do a burnout in it,
Yeah,
and you need those tires because it's your daily.
not if it's front-wheel drive. You're not gonna do a burnout.
Oh yeah, you will.
But they're also like 195s.
Yeah.
They're like little tiny tires. You buy them cheap.
Yeah, well, yeah, I
Like
guess.
my wagon, that's the problem. Every time I drive it, I'll do like a giant smoky burnout. And I'm like, okay, but those are 285s.
Yeah, expensive tires.
Sticky
Yeah.
Kumo tires. And it's like, man,
Eh,
gets a little less fun.
yeah. When you have to pay for them.
Every time I've done a burnout in my truck, it turns off.
You've done a burnout in your truck.
It'll turn off at the end of the
the
burnout.
2500.
Yes.
You do burnouts in it.
I've done him.
Why?
yeah. Just to verify it does burnouts. Like sometimes you have to verify it will do a burnout, and sometimes you're around people that you're like, you gotta show them that your 2500 L5P will do a burnout.
I can honestly say I have the same truck and I have never done a burnout in it.
They don't do great burnouts.
Why do you do one?
I don't know.
Well,
Bronte's car doesn't do a burnout, so that's perfect.
well, it's typical car guy to know what car of your fleet will and won't do burnouts.
Yes.
So yeah.
The problem is the wagon, like CTSVs do insanely good
Oh, yeah.
burnouts.
Oh,
like
yeah.
a rolling burnout too, where you can walk it a little bit.
Yeah.
And every time I take it to the track, I do huge burnouts, and it runs like an 1150, and it doesn't even need a burnout.
Right. What do you have done to it?
It's just pulley, injectors, and tune.
Okay, so the basic good mods.
The entry level, like
Yeah.
you bought a supercharged GM car, you do this
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
There's like
Yeah.
everybody should probably.
They're pretty reliable when you do that.
Yeah, it doesn't really, like, I don't even run ethanol in it for the most part.
Yeah.
But it has the tune for it.
Yeah, which is nice. Flex fuel sensors are cool because you can just, that's amazing. That you
Yeah,
can
like
just
if I'm
switch
going to
back
go
and
to the
forth.
track and, like, screw around. Like the other day I did 4 back-to-back roll race passes and it went 126 every single time. I was like, okay, I guess, like, that's all it does.
I didn't put my phone on mute.
126.
It's scam likely anyways, so it's probably not even good.
Yeah, so that's all it really does. 126 is pretty healthy for a
Yeah, that's
4-door wagon.
Yeah.
But again, that would make a horrible daily driver because you're gonna floor it.
Oh, yeah.
Because you get to hear the whine.
Yeah. That's one of the best things about those is the whine. That was cool.
Yeah, the whine is great. It just loud enough, especially with an intake.
Yeah.
Once
yeah.
you put an intake on it, because that's
Yeah.
the only real need for an intake.
Right.
The
yeah.
stock cold
yeah.
airs do good enough.
yeah.
The intake only just echoes the whine out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what other GM cars. They've had some really obscure stuff, and I'm here for it. I kind of like the obscure cars.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Those are some pretty weird ones that they came out with recently.
Yeah. Ford doesn't really do that. They came out with the RS, that little hatchback,
Yeah.
and those had massive failures.
Really?
I think like all the engines were failing on those too.
Oh, yeah. Well.
It's kind of like a 6.0, 100% failure rate.
Yeah. yeah.
And even like back to my truck, you were saying those are going to be sought after. Like mine's the 2017, like first year of the L5P.
Right.
And from what I've heard, people with the 2020s and up don't even care for the like interior and fit and finish of them as much.
Really?
Yeah, I know Justin was saying that
Justin Keith?
yeah, he preferred the older interior to the newer one. And I mean, he's probably got more miles behind the wheel of
Yeah, I mean,
a tow rig than any of us.
I've ridden in the new ones, and they're nice. You get a lot more room, I feel, dash-wise. The thing that I like about them is the cameras. From your in my body style to that.
Yeah, it's got like the overhead.
Night and day different. I mean, mine looks like, I'm filling it with a potato, whereas like the other ones are like really clear. And then when you use the turn signals, if you got the trailer, it pops up on the like your side of your truck on the screen, which is nice. So there's a lot of cool stuff that have come out with technology wise, but I think they're probably just as good as ours. I just personally like that body style better than the new
I think
ones.
I think it looks really good. It's a little tougher looking.
Yeah, to me, it's like what the OBS from the 90s is.
Yeah.
It's going to be that sought after body
And
style.
well, mine's like the Denali with every option besides sunroof.
Oh, really?
So it's like
But
perfect.
do you even use the sunroof?
No,
Who
I'm
uses
glad it doesn't have the sunroof.
Yeah, but who would you do if it did? Would you?
No, I would never.
I
in
never
a
use
truck.
it. I hate them because working at the dealership, all they were was leaks, and it didn't work or it stopped halfway. So I have one on mine. I don't even use it.
That's one thing about the wagons too. If you have a slick top wagon, super sought after.
Yeah, I
Because
bet.
like there's a PDF on the wagons on like how many were made, and like you can go down the line and see like options.
Oh, okay.
And like once you get to like black stick shift. Black interior, it's like one without a sunroof. It's like one guy.
Really?
And then there's like this crazy plum color,
Really?
and there's 2 of them.
I didn't even know there was that color.
Yeah, there's only
Wow.
2 of them that they made in a wagon. It's
Wow.
kind of cool to see the PDF of how few they made.
Right.
And especially once you do black interior, and it's like, man, people order black car with a white interior.
I'm not a fan of light colored interior in anything.
No,
Like I couldn't own a Tesla because all those are white. You know what I
White,
mean?
yeah.
And we work on cars, so you get in there and it would just get dirty. So yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't trust it that much. Well, this was a nice, fun conversation about roasting GM a little bit. and their
we did that.
poor decisions. So I think we could wrap it up there.
Cool.
We didn't really even talk about fabrication stuff at
Yeah,
all.
we
but we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
So, guys, Brad Vasko, check him out. Vasko Speed, full-time fabricator now. So if you need anything built in the Missouri area, I guess you'd say, right?
Yeah, Kansas City, Kansas.
Greater Kansas City
They do
area.
a lot of stuff from Omaha too, so Nebraska. So
Yeah, people will trailer to a good fab shop.
Yeah, so.
That's how I always feel. I'll go 4 hours if it's a good fab shop.
Yeah.
Versus the guy that's local.
Yeah.
But dude, thanks for coming on.
Yep,
Super
thank you.
fun.
Appreciate it.
Check him out. Vasko Speed and Performance. That'll do it, guys. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.